It's time for business, and Sandra Fernando is joining me. Hello, Sandra.
Hello, Israel. We are celebrating SMEs and entrepreneurs today, so a lot to talk about that sector.
Okay, you take it away.
All right. Hello, good evening. My name is Sandra Sinamafeno. As always, I'm here for business. We begin tonight, and Deputy Finance Minister Kwaku Kwarteng has called on foreign investors not to exploit the current tax exemption regime. This follows concerns that government is being shortchanged by some foreign firms. Speaking at the second CEO's breakfast meeting in Accra, Kwaku Kwarteng says government is in the process of introducing new provisions to deal with this menace.
Government will by the end of 2019 present to Parliament a new tax exemption bill which will seek to scrutinize all exemptions granted with the aim of saving the state from losing revenues due it. Speaking to Joy Business at the sideline of the second CEO's breakfast meeting, Deputy Finance Minister Kwaku Kwarteng gave more details on this move.
Exemptions, if not checked, as a policy becomes a drain on government revenue, in which case government will not have enough money to keep stable fiscals, with a result that inflation drops, the exchange rate deteriorates, and it goes back to hurt business. So I think on this there are no real disputes.
Partner and Director of Tax Services at PricewaterhouseCoopers, Abeku Jan Kwanta, has been explaining to Joy Business the need for more prudence and value for money in Ghana's tax exemption regime.
We should be asking ourselves as a society is whether after 24 years we need to keep it in the form in which it was passed 24 years ago. So if government says there ought to be some modification, then I do agree that there should be some modification, but only after convincing the public that there are indeed reasons for those modifications. So if you would recall, I did say during the presentation that, look, if you keep mentioning the fact that exemptions are a problem, mind you don't just grant those exemptions without having some expectations.
The CEO's breakfast meeting was themed assessing the tax exemptions regime in Ghana.
In other news tonight, the Ministry of Trade and Industry is assuring micro, small businesses and entrepreneurs of government support as it implements the Continental Free Trade Agreement. Director at Multilateral and Regional Trade of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, Mixin Opoku, gave the assurance after addressing some entrepreneurs at the Stakeholders Forum on the Continental Free Trade Agreement organized in Accra. Here is Ebenezer Sabote's report.
With less than a month to the implementation of the Continental Free Trade Agreement, small and medium-scale enterprises are positioning themselves to reap the full benefits. According to a director at the Multilateral and Regional Trade Department of the Ministry of Trade and Industry, government is prepared to provide all the necessary support for micro businesses to penetrate the other African markets. The support includes development of flexible capital schemes and an establishment of a regulatory body to manage operations of all micro, small and medium enterprises to have better understanding of the various trade conventions in the agreement.
It is very obvious that we have a lot of institutions doing different things which are all linked to SME development. But we need to have a policy that is national in character to support all the institutions. So that becomes the barometer to measure that we have this list of institutions, this is the problems they have, and if government want to assist them, they are looking at the policy and what they are going to administer is not going to affect only a section of the industry or sectors. It would have accommodated all the MSME sector, and then we will define how we should progressively address the issues.
Today's forum coincided with the celebration of Micro, Small and Medium-Scale Enterprises Day, earmarked to highlight issues affecting the sector. Enes Gavon is Executive Director of the Engine Business Network.
A United Nations designated day to celebrate and create conversations around MSMEs, because the MSMEs form 90% of businesses globally. And in Ghana, too, the statistics are about the same. They employ the most number of people, but MSMEs have a lot of challenges which need to be addressed. So on a day like this, we at Engine Business Network thought it wise to have an event where we discuss pertinent issues around SMEs. And coincidentally, the African Free Continental Trade Area is topical. It's just about being launched on the 7th. The market has been about being launched on the 7th of July. So we thought it's wise to have a discussion around AFTAC. So that was what exactly happened today.
Ghana is the second country to ratify the agreement after it was signed in 2018 by the African Union.
So on the SME sector, despite being touted as the backbone of the economy, the medium, small and micro enterprises sector is still faced with several challenges. Chief among them is access to funding. Marking this year's medium, small and micro enterprises day today, some local companies are appealing to banks to improve access to funding.
According to data provided by the International Council for Small Businesses, formal and informal micro, small and medium-sized enterprises make up over 90% of all firms and account on average for 60 to 70% of total employment and 50% of GDP worldwide. However, the challenge of access to credit makes it difficult for SMEs to expand by employing more labor, increase productivity and improve competitiveness locally and internationally. Again, it's becoming difficult for banks to consider SME loans as a low-risk proposition due to a high default rate, leaving just a few financial institutions supporting the sector. Marking World MSME Day, Joy Business has been engaging some entrepreneurs who lauded efforts by some banks but called for more support.
The banks also have their hands tied because don't forget they are also in there to make profit. They are also in there to pay other people, and they also have other commitments, and they have to ensure that they cover their back. So I think that, yes, they are doing, but I think that they can do more.
Accessing funds has always been a challenge. I mean, it's always not easy. It's because of the processes and the bureaucracy in the process. It's always difficult. However, if you're able to put things in order, if you're able to clear your accounts well, you have your figures right, I think you would appeal to these financiers. And
so I believe government's critical support will come through market access. Market access for MSMEs is so critical to us because we are competing within a space where B2B trade is now the order of the day. And SMEs are the support lifeline to expand employment.
The MSME Day is set aside to celebrate the achievements and contributions of players to the economy. The theme for this year, Big Money for Small Businesses, Financing the SDGs. Karen Dodo's report for Joy Business.
Now, could this be a breakthrough? Well, coming up tonight in our summaries, Ghanaian Nigerian traders have finally agreed to meet over retail empire. Stay tuned for the details plus more coming up shortly.
There seems to be some breakthrough in the retail dispute between Ghanaian and Nigerian retailers as the two sides agree on dialogue. On Wednesday, the leadership of the two sides met on Pulse, a news analysis program on the Joy News, where both the president of GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obing, and president of the Nigerian Union of Traders Association, Chief Chukwuemeka Ngaji, agreed to find a lasting solution to the impasse. The two sides have been in dispute for many years, following confusion over whether to apply local laws which forbid foreign participation in retail trade or an ECOWAS treaty that allows citizens of member states to move freely and establish economically in other member states. The 24 banks currently operating in the country registered an after-tax profit of 1.1 billion Ghana cedis, representing a year-on-year growth of 38.9% compared with 5.8% growth for the same period last year. The profit margin is a remarkable growth after the cleanup of the banking sector. Majority of the profits were recorded largely by the Tier 1 and Tier 2 banks, including EcoBank Ghana, GCB Bank, Barclays Bank, among others. A teller at the Ketia branch of Carl Bank, who forged signatures of two customers and withdrew large sums of money from their accounts, has been granted a 50,000 Ghana cedis bail with one surety by a Kumasi Circuit Court. Kwabena Sante is said to have fraudulently withdrawn a total of 62,000 Ghana cedis from the accounts of two petty traders who are customers of the Ketia branch of the bank. He pleaded not guilty to the charges and would make his next appearance before the court, presided over by Mrs. Lydia Osei-Mafo, on July 10 this year.
All right, so that's all for business for now. When I return, receivers of defunct Beige Bank to go after their assets. Israel.